We're here live on Earth Day. For those of you who may be joining us already, we're just gonna take a minute to let some folks join us while we go live here. We're working on setting up the live stream here, and we're just gonna get started in just a minute. So happy Earth Day to everybody who has just joined us. My name's Abby Driscoll, and I'm here with some amazing local youth. So excited to have everyone here with us today. I'm chair of the Board of Sustainable Resilient Longmont. We're a local nonprofit here in Longmont working on all kinds of climate change issues. We have done the Longmont Earth Day since 2015. And this year's event had to be canceled because of public health, reasons that I'm sure everyone knows about that we're experiencing with COVID-19. And in talking with our group about what we could do to try to do some type of online programming, we are so excited to have our youth joining us today for what was going to be a panel discussion at our event, which would have been this Saturday, but we're moving everything online and we're here and everyone's here. So this is just so exciting. I cannot be more inspired at this moment, really, to have 4 local high school students joining us, as well as our amazing moderator, Marlow Baines, who's been involved with Earth Guardians for 4 years now. Originally from Boulder, Marlow got involved and just got so inspired, really just has dedicated her life the last 4 years to Earth Guardians. And this is an international organization working to inspire youth action on climate change. And so Marlow can tell you a little bit more about her organization. But again, Abby with Sustainable Resilient Longmont, just so excited to have you all here with us today. And we're going to kick off the panel, and I'm going to let Marlow take it from here. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you. My name is Marlow Baines. I am the Youth Director for Earth Guardians, an international organization that is youth-led. We inspire and train youth to be effective youth leaders within their community to create a more just and sustainable world. I first wanted to acknowledge the indigenous land that we are on. This is the occupied territory of the Ute, Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Sioux. So a lot of my work for the past 3 or 4 years has gone towards coalition building and collaboration work with over our 300 crews worldwide. I'm so excited to be moderating this panel with 4 amazing youth leaders. And I guess what inspires me most about being the moderator here is that I have worked with most of these panelists on multiple different occasions, and I'm so excited to work in the future with these youth. And the other thing too is that they are constantly taking ways that other youth within their high schools can take action within the climate and continue to inspire the cultural shift to take urgency on climate action. So for my participants to start, for my panelists to start, I would love if Megan can start with a little intro on who she is. Megan, take it away.
Thank you, Marlow. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Neufeld. I'm a junior at Silver Creek High School. I work with my school's environmental club, and as Marlow said, I'm also a member of Boulder Earth Guardians crew. And I'm just super excited to be here. It's definitely not a normal Earth Day or maybe the Earth Day we all wanted, but I think it's also a really great way to still get together, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Megan. I am wondering if we can have Ash go next.
Thanks, Marlow and Megan. Really excited to be here. I'm Ashwini Shrestha, and I'm a junior at Skyline High School. And I co-founded the Ecological Skyline Club my end of freshman year. And we're continuously working on new projects. And right now I'm working on developing a Sustain Earth online camp at the Innovation Center, where I'm on a couple project teams and also an intern for the Anarch Corporation. So I think at the end of the session, Marlow will share the link to register for that camp, and that will be a lot of fun. So if you're interested in that, you can check that out. But yeah, I'm really excited to work with what we can today and talk with all these amazing ladies.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can we have Allie go next?
Hi everyone, my name is Allie Hummer. I'm 16 years old. I'm also a junior. I go to Silver Creek High School. I am also a part of Silver Creek's Environmental Club. I am in Earth Guardians Boulder, and I'm also in the Earth Day Committee for Sustainable Resilient Longmont. I'm just super excited to be with all of these girls because I've worked with all of you and they're all just such amazing people. So this is a really cool opportunity to hear from all of us. So I'm very excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allie. And finally, Maya, can you introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Maya Beauvineau. I'm 16 years old and I go to Niwot High School. I'm also a junior and I co-lead the environmental club at Niwot High School with Grace Miller. And I'm super excited to be here. Like Megan said, this is not exactly what we imagined when we started planning for Earth Day events a few months ago. But I'm so grateful that we're able to still make this day special by doing this panel. So I'm super grateful to be here.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. So to hop right into our panel, I would love to hear from you guys about the first time you really experienced the climate crisis and felt the urgency to take action and how you responded. Megan, will you start?
Yes. Okay, so when I was looking at this question, I was thinking about it, and it's hard because I can't think of like a defining moment of like, that's when I was like, this is urgent. I think, you know, the climate crisis has been something that's probably, I think I've heard about since I was younger, and it's always been in the back of my mind. Like, I specifically remember when I was maybe 7 or 8, I was sitting in the back of the car and my mom and brother were in the front passenger seat, and they're talking about something called like global warming. And I was like, guys, like, what's this global warming? And my mom was like, no, it's global warming. Like, it's the heating of the planet due to fossil fuels. And to me, I was like, you know, global warming still seems kind of fitting. Like, the earth is warning us that we need to do something. So yeah, it's kind of always been in the back of my mind. And then last year when I was a sophomore and those questions started coming up of like, what's your plan? What are you doing after high school? Is like the climate crisis is in the back of my mind. Like, you know, how can I plan for my future if really the future of our home is so uncertain? And simultaneously, the March 2019 global strike was getting planned. So I ended up being put in contact with Marlow and then worked to start planning some strikes and then have been involved ever since. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, so amazing. I remember hearing your story the first time and was just so blown away by your just amazingness and willingness to really just jump right in. Ash, I can't wait to hear about how did you get involved with all of this and when did you first feel the effects of the climate crisis?
So like Megan, like this has always been a part of my life, kind of like ever since I was little. I've heard about endangered species and like solar panels and like what all that is about. And one thing that I always would hear about was Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth, and like the book he wrote about it and the movie and stuff. And I was always like, what's the inconvenient truth, like as a child? And especially when it like clicked for me was in 8th grade. And I was in 8th grade for when the 2016 election was going on. And in that time, a lot of like controversy and like things about like environmental policy and the Paris Agreement thing was going on. And I was just like, what is this all about? And the more I learned about it, the more I wanted to get involved. And as a girl in STEM, I was like, wait, I can like do something about this. And so that's how I like started getting involved in trying to figure out a way I can help and researching. And yeah, now I'm here.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Allie?
Yeah, just what Megan and Ash said, climate change has definitely always been a really prevalent topic throughout my life in school and in media. And as I've gotten older, I've definitely been able to establish a deeper connection with nature and a better understanding of the human impacts on it. And of course, these were really formative discoveries for me to know what climate change is. But what was even more important was when I learned that I could do something about it. And I have to thank my fellow panelist, Megan, for that. She introduced me to youth action and environmentalism through strikes and with the environment club at our school. So I started doing that last year. And for the first time ever, I felt like I had this amazing opportunity to use my voice and make a change with it, because I never felt like as a 16-year-old I could really make that much of an impact. And to me, it just felt like the most important thing that I could do with my time, because how can I possibly focus on another issue when the life of our planet is at stake? And in the same way, how can you possibly address climate change without addressing so many other people and so many other cultures? So I really found environmentalism to just be this beautiful and inclusive movement, which offered so much unity and such a great platform to so many voices. So I just knew I wanted to be involved in it from that.
Thank you so much, Allie. Now, finally, Maya, how did you get involved with this?
I can really pinpoint my realization of the gravity of the climate change issue that faces us today to my 7th grade biology class, because I remember oftentimes throughout the year, my 7th grade year, we would have these deep discussions in my 7th grade biology class, mostly led by the teacher at the time, whose name was Mr. Real, spelled real. So everybody, it wasn't really a question whether what he told us was real or not. We all accepted it and respected him. And so I just remember being super shocked to hear how detrimental climate change really is to our planet. And he would oftentimes throw out facts and dates, even such as we have 50 years left to act. And that was only a few years ago. And now we're having, leading world scientists telling us that we have 10 years to act on this huge issue before everybody really feels the effects firsthand. And I know that there are tons of places that already experience the detrimental effects of climate change. So I think I was really moved in 7th grade. And then last year I learned that other youth like me were moving to action, with Greta Thunberg and in Europe. And then I saw youth movements starting to spark in Boulder near my house. And so I got super excited, and definitely have been, like Allie said, I feel like this is a very inclusive movement, and I'm very grateful to be a part of it.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. So to open up to our first question, and this can be, whoever wants to respond to it, but how do you see your schools and communities responding to the climate crisis? Is it positive, negative? What do you see when you're within these spaces? And Megan, if you want to start, you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Our school's environmental club went to the city council meeting when Longmont declared a climate emergency, which that was, a super hopeful thing to me, just getting that recognition from adults, they were going to take this as seriously as we want and we need them to. So that was one way I saw it. But I think after that's happened, the biggest struggle is just making sure that we keep with that. We've declared the climate emergency now. What actions do we take? And obviously, I think SRL is working really hard on that and stuff like that. But the other interesting thing is with schools, I think it's hard because I've always felt with school, they're preparing us for our future. So, are they really recognizing the severity of this crisis and the danger it's posing to our futures? So I think one thing I would love to see more in my school is more of a push to educate people about the climate crisis. If you're going to prepare us for our future, you need to also be warning us of, what's to come if we don't take action.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I totally agree with you, especially in our culture that's so affected by media and everything moving so quickly. I think we can't declare a climate emergency and then a month later kind of forget about it. It's something that's always ongoing, and we always have to keep in the back of our head, and that goes along with, climate change affects everyone, even if we're not necessarily going to reap the effects of oceans rising. Like, we're going to get more drastic winters and more drastic summers. And I think Coloradans have already noticed, like, our winters are getting longer and we're getting snow in weird times of the year, and it's affecting everyone. And I feel like with media and stuff, everything is just so easy to like, oh my goodness, we have to do something about it, and then we kind of forget about it a week later. So I think that's a really good point to just always keep in mind that although we might not be exactly seeing the effects of it right now, like other people in the world are, and it's just gonna get worse. So.
Yeah, go ahead, Allie.
Well, like Megan was saying, I've definitely experienced some sort of community responses to these issues, such as, you know, the city hall meeting when they declared climate change an emergency. And I've also firsthand been able to watch SRL and the Renewable Energy Committee work with our power provider, PRPA, and work towards renewable energy with that. And then also seeing how just more youth are getting more involved in the political side of this with I know Maya and her Niwot group was trying to make people sign the ban against fracking to extend that, which I thought was this really amazing thing. I think it's super important that we realize that the most effective way to achieve climate change is really to get in the political side of it and achieve that legislation that we need to make more widespread change. So I've been seeing definitely an increased community response, especially in the youth, towards that side of things instead of just going to strikes and stuff like that. So that's been really inspiring for me to see. And right now, when we are all just kind of at home, I feel like we've seen a new surge in inspiration for people to create more art and be more thoughtful and introspective. And that definitely applies to environmentalism. I think a lot of people are taking the time to see how the earth is healing without us. And I hope that we will have a new community response and a new feeling towards environmentalism after this.
Yeah, going off what Allie just said, I think that this time has been a really, especially pretty eye-opening time to just be able to be at home and explore creative outlets and explore environmentalism through that. And I think that also what you said about, Allie, what you said about the earth seeming to heal in this time without us, I think that it also shows that we are able to coexist with nature. We just need to be mindful of it and see how our impacts and how our actions really affect the environment. And so I think that some community responses that I've seen have, I mean, it's so incredible. Every time I go to a strike or any sort of community event, whether it be like an environmental club meeting or even just a few months or about a month ago, before the school closure, all of the, or a few of the schools from SVBSD, the environmental clubs joined together and we were all present there. And it was so empowering to see so many youth together kind of brainstorming ideas on how we can collaborate. And I think that collaboration is really the key to making an effective movement, because the more people, the louder our voice, and the louder our voice, the more likely that we will be able to connect our demands to action.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love this whole idea of collaboration, working together. And honestly, personally, there was a time on a strike last May, on May 3rd, and I think Megan was there, and maybe Maya as well, I'm not sure. But there was just this space of like 50 youth, you know, but we were all together and like, you know, talking and sharing our stories. And it felt like such a collaborative and supportive space where we could share what we felt really inside, and how honestly like nourishing that is when you're in that time. And so I'm just so grateful to hear all of you guys sharing that as well. So also, I just want to let you guys know, if you are an attendee and have a question, there's a little Q&A box that you can drop your questions in, and we can try to answer them live as much as possible. And if not, we'll have a more Q&A session at the end. But there's one that came in, and it's just addressed to you guys, is what are some tips to communicate the urgency of the movement to your peers, and how can they also engage? Yeah. Does somebody want to start off with that question?
I would say that the key to action really is education. And so obviously it sort of has to originate somewhere. Somebody has to have that knowledge before others are able to access it. But really, whether it be just forming a little club or forming, sharing information through social media, I believe that really when people's eyes are open to the dire situation that we're in, it's hard not to want to act, because you see the beautiful world that we still have access to. And you see on the other side, you know, development and growth in human presence in our world. And I think that the two really do have the opportunity to coexist and to nurture and develop together. But to do that, we must be mindful, and we must always have the environment in our minds, I suppose, to as we develop and grow our communities.
Amazing. All right. Megan, can you answer that next?
Yeah, so I think obviously, you know, there's always going to be those people that are like the climate deniers, and no matter what you tell them, you know, it's always going to turn into an argument. So I think what I have kind of found, especially with people at my school, is there's a lot of people that are just kind of in the middle. And, you know, looking at the research on how severe this crisis is honestly really scary. So a lot of people just don't really take the time to look at it, because that's going to be upsetting, and why would you want to do that? So I think one of the things I've tried to do is just kind of find those people in the middle, and then, you know, come at it as a healthy conversation. And then most times people are like, okay, I see what you're saying. And then just telling people to show up, you know, if there's a strike, if there's a press conference, any opportunity to put pressure on our leaders, just show up. This movement always needs more people and more voices, and it's really just as simple as that.
Amazing. All right, Allie, how about you have a go-to?
Yeah, I really agree with Megan. What I think is the easiest way for people to make a positive change in this movement is to honestly just get involved, just take that first leap and just get yourself involved with something. Because if you want to be in a club or an organization, it's really just as easy as asking. In my experience, I volunteered for SRL in their electrical vehicle fair last year, and I was really excited to see such a motivated group work together to make a change. And I really had no idea how to sign up, or if I could even sign up at 16, but I just emailed the first name I could find on their website, and I was attending meetings really soon after. You know, these mobilizations, they're really eager for more people, because the more hard work and passion that we can put into local efforts, the better. And I'm sure my other panelists can relate, but I found it really surprising how easy it is to find yourself suddenly very busy with meetings and strikes and projects. So this is because there are so many opportunities to do meaningful work once you're involved. So what I would recommend is really just find a topic that you're passionate about, because people work hardest for the things that they love. So find something that you're passionate about and pursue it.
Amazing. All right, Ash.
Going off of what Megan was saying, there will always be this climate deniers and stuff. And I think that goes along with the saying, like, ignorance is bliss, and people think, like, if it's not affecting me, why would I have to worry about it? And the first step is education and finding your passion and such, and taking that passion and just going along with it and taking that first leap. And I think the main block that the people in the middle have is thinking that they can't do anything about it, and feeling that helplessness that I think all of us have felt at one point, and just learning what you can do about it, and learning what you can do with that passion, and knowing that, like, every single action and every single small thing you do does make a difference. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, so what I heard is that there's different people within schools and communities. One are obviously, they're like on the severe end. They're like active opposers of what's going on. But there's a lot of people in the middle who are really fearful and afraid for what's happening. And so it's really easy just to be like, I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist. It doesn't bother me, whatever. And I love that you guys are just saying that some simple tools that everybody can use is go have a conversation and pose it in a way of positivity, and also a place that makes us connect. So share your story, share your personal your personal drive towards what we can do within this future, and what is possible. So thank you guys so much for that. To move on to the next question, I would love to ask you guys, what are some things that are you seeing within the COVID-19 pandemic and how the world really responded, and how can we contribute that and move it into the work of climate action? And what is the world that you want to see after this pandemic is over? Allie, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, one of the most heartbreaking things that I saw from this whole COVID experience was how people were really turning it into an opportunity for xenophobia and for people to tear each other apart. And I think that is so prevalent in climate change as well. People make it a political issue, people make it an age issue, people make it a race issue. And with these both of these topics, it is something that absolutely everyone in the world is experiencing right now. And I think the most important thing to solve both of these is to find unity instead of finding division. We need to recognize that we are all in this planet and that we all need to work together. No one accomplishes anything alone. And I think that from COVID-19, we can really take that just experience of unity and tie it into climate change. And another thing from this is just kind of from COVID-19, I think we've all really had to find a new sense of self-dependability and self-reliability. You know, as we lose our jobs, as businesses close, as food prices rise, I've seen a lot more people start making their own gardens, even getting chickens for their own eggs. And I think this dependability on yourself, even just for a little bit in the food process, is helping with sustainability within food consumption. And I think that I hope that we can bring that towards after this, and, you know, just keep going with producing our own food and supporting local businesses. And that is really just going to help with sustainability in the food process as well.
So amazing. Yes, I so agree. And I think it's really important to just say that it's really easiest for us to just divide ourselves into little sections and segments in our opinions, and that when we start to realize that we can come together, I mean, it's pretty amazing that all across the world we're showing solidarity for the frontlines workers by staying home. And that if we can act so quickly, why can't we do that for the, you know, climate crisis, and bringing those real solutions forward? So thank you so much for bringing that up as a point. Ash, can you go off of that?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great mentioning, like the division is something we've been talking about in my AP Environmental Science class online over like online learning platforms. And we recently learned about like noise pollution and how that's gone down, and how like people in Wuhan thought that birds were just non-existent in the city and that they had just like disappeared, and that in that area there was just no birds. But they were so shocked to like hear birds chirping once they started staying home, and they were like, well, why can't it be like this all the time? And I'm just really hoping that humans and us, like after being unified and almost humbled in a sense that we don't control everything, once we go back to our normal lives, which I don't think it'll ever go back to normal, but once we do, we're gonna have a much more like appreciation for the outdoors and nature, and because everyone's just itching to go outside now, and I think that we should take that appreciation into our everyday lives and not just when we're forced to stay inside. And I think just taking that urgency for flattening the curve, and taking that urgency for working towards solving the climate crisis as well is what we should be doing.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Well, I also just kind of wanted to go off of this, is that after this, you know, COVID-19 pandemic, we start to go back onto the streets and honestly start to rebuild what we thought was normal. What do you want to see this world look like after that? What are some things that maybe you're hopeful for in this time of transition? Because I think that there's a huge opportunity for us to restructure and renovate what we had previously thought were our, you know, never changing systems. Megan, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, I would love to. Yeah, so I think, obviously seeing the positive benefits to the environment during this time are honestly just the little things of hope that I've needed during this time. But obviously these benefits are temporary, and when we do all go back outside into the world, like, the climate crisis is still here, and it's still going to be there. So I think what this has shown me, and I think has shown a lot of us, is how quickly changes in human behavior can have positive effects on the environment. And the important thing with that is that those changes in human behavior does not have to mean us being locked inside our house, but it can be those things of oil staying in the ground right now, that is a huge plus. So when we are making that switch to renewable energy, like, now we know, like, that will have an impact, and this is showing us all of that. So yeah.
Amazing. Maya, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to say, like, connecting it back to the COVID-19 crisis that we're in right now, oftentimes, like, multiple counties and states and even countries have declared a climate emergency in the past year and a half. And yet we still haven't seen quite the response that we would like, especially from those in power. For example, when you compare it to the crisis that we're in right now, because everybody feels it so immediately, the health crisis, we really have the potential to foster that kind of reaction for dealing with the climate crisis as well. And so I really hope to see going forward more recognition of the environmental crisis that we're in right now, and how we do have the potential to make change. Like Megan was saying, if anything, I've learned from this health crisis, I have really learned that change is possible on a large scale in a short amount of time, and it just needs to be pushed by something. And I think that the push is definitely growing in momentum for environmental action. The youth have been rising for more than a year now, and for going way back as well. It's just more pertinently recently. But I would definitely like to see more involvement from those in power going forward.
Beautifully said. Ash, go ahead.
Just one more thing I'd like to add. The theorized cause of COVID is currently the wet markets in Wuhan is what the theory is. And just going back to that, like, appreciation and respect for nature and the living beings around us, and, like, making sure that we don't take, like, things like animals and, like, just our nature around us for granted, because the state of the wet markets, right, like, and what caused the COVID-19 crisis is, I think, an example of us taking where we get our food and stuff like that for granted. And I think having that good relationship with where we get our food, and where we get our food, and the thing that Allie was mentioning about people getting their own chickens and growing their own gardens, and realizing that to become, like, self-sustainable and such, we have to have that relationship with nature. And I think that's something positive that's come out of this crisis.
So amazing. So I just wanted to reiterate some of the stuff that I heard within those answers, is that, we have seen that the world can act so quickly on an issue that is affecting masses amount of people. And that sometimes it can come from this fearful place, but when we start to realize, like, the power and inspiration that we can do in, creating really swift action, that we can do it, and we can get it done, and we can slow, the curve down within the COVID cases. The other thing too is just that we have seen that the world and nature in specific are very, very resilient, and that when we stop, the nature comes back, within whether we live in, the concrete jungle, we are seeing birds returning, we're seeing deer roaming the streets, we're seeing, almost these oppressed, groups of people on the earth coming back, and also reclaiming that we are all a part of this world, and that we can all come together as one, and realizing really the potency and power that we have within that. And then also the other thing too is just the self-dependence that we have as people on this planet. So we can plant gardens, we can get chickens, and how amazing and powerful that is when we start to realize how local we can become in our self-dependency, and also how global we are as a community. So there's always a little saying that I like to throw out, is that, think globally and act locally. So I really feel like that's where you guys are heading. And I know that Earth Guardians Boulder is looking to do a DIY home garden project for all of our local crew members and everything. So, check out, Earth Guardians Boulder, and I bet all of these other clubs to see how you can also plug in. So thank you guys so much for that. And to just, kind of answer, to wrap up this part about COVID and what we're seeing within the climate crisis, how can people take action at home, and what are some of the discussions that you hope to continue on as we are stuck here within home, and what are some ways that people can still stay involved? Ash, go ahead.
Interestingly, I just listened to a podcast about this, and some things I have been thinking about and heard in the podcast was kind of working on the things like, oh, I don't have, I think we've all heard, do all the things you always say you don't have time to do in this, stay-at-home order, quarantine type of deal time. And I think one of those things for a lot of people who are working towards environmental and sustainability work is being more zero waste and plant-based at home, and kind of growing your own garden. And I don't think there's a better time to work on cooking and working on recipes, and maybe working on becoming more zero waste or starting your own compost pile. And the number one way to reduce your carbon footprint is going on a plant-based diet. And I think working on recipes and stuff like that at home is a great way. And there are limitations to food access, and I think that's where composting and learning how to become more zero waste is not only environmentally impactful and cheap, helpful, makes sense, it's economically helpful. Using glass jars instead of single-use containers is something that you can very easily transition to in this time. So
amazing. All right, great. I think that Allie, you should answer the question next.
Okay, well, what I think is really the most important to focus on and to work towards right now while we are all in quarantine is how we can mobilize and unify during this time. I think we have, like I said, just this really unique opportunity to be together behind our screens under one cause. So I think we definitely need to take advantage of that and produce a surge of creativity and inspiration and action. There's so many things that we can do during this time together, such as participating in events like this one. So thank you everyone who actually came and is listening to this, because this is a way that you can participate in your community. Another example is Earth Day Live, which is just this amazing collection of live streams and climate strikes that are accessible all over the world. So these are things that anyone can participate in, and that strengthen our community and our fight against climate change. Like Ash was saying, this is also a great time to identify the ways that we personally can contribute to the cause through our everyday actions. So one of the things that I've taken a part in recently is the Earth Day Eco Challenge. Some of you might know about this. SRL has been promoting it, but it is a month-long program, and it allows you to choose goals for yourself, such as composting or eating meatless meals. And then by completing those challenges, you can win points for your team. And this has been awesome for me because I have loved being able to see what all the community is doing, because I've been seeing all these posts of people composting and picking up trash and growing gardens. And it's just such an amazing way to work towards a common goal, as we're all part of this Longmont team. And I hope we can, all be part of an Earth team where we all do this together. But yeah, right now in times where society is really scared and uncertain, we have to find ways to create unity and to strengthen one another. So I just think what's most important to focus on right now is just the ways that we can come together and work together.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I think it's just really, really important to remember what we can do at home, reaching out to our communities, looking at what we can do around the house, whether it's planting a garden or doing more plant-based meals, finding new recipes because we have such a time to rest and stay within ourselves. I also love that you shouted out Earth Day Live. I know that I got a notification because I helped plan some of the stuff that they got over 100,000 streams already. And so after this panel is done, definitely check it out. We have some amazing speakers and performers, and just continue to feel inspired. Maya, what do you have to say about this question?
I completely agree with both Ash and Allie on how you can get involved in terms of changing things in your life, or getting involved with your community and coming to things like this. And I just wanted to point out that this is also an incredible time for really slowing down your own life and being able to reflect on your own place on this planet. And I think that sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in the everyday routine of, you go to school, you go to work, you get up, you eat breakfast, and you go to bed, and then sometimes it's easy to kind of really it's difficult to just slow down and reflect on really what power you have as a human being on this planet. And I think that I've felt super empowered by the environmental movement in terms of feeling like I really do have a voice and feeling like I can make a change. And I definitely do not feel like I have achieved what I want to yet in my life, but that's okay because I'm 16. And I think that this time I have really personally taken advantage of it to reflect on what I want to do going forward, and also just to be appreciative of the beautiful world that we live in.
Amazing. Thank you so much, you guys. So just to say, I think that we feel this momentum of unity and trying to stand together, because at the end of the day, that's how we're going to shift. It's not going to just be a bunch of separate people fighting about the right ways to do it, but that we have a bunch of solutions that are going to tackle this issue, and that we'll continue to do our best to create the world that we want to see. So to transition to a bit of a different topic, I know within Colorado that we see the oil and gas industry having great impacts on our health and the wellness of our earth and the air. What are some of your thoughts around fracking, and what do you want to see come outside of maybe more of a renewable future within energy and electricity? And Maya, I know you've been working a lot on the fracking initiatives within Boulder County. So could you start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it is, first of all, critical to understand how much we really are affected by the fracking and the oil and gas extraction that goes on in our community. And sometimes it's really easy to believe what the companies that are in charge of those projects tell you. And that oftentimes is, oh, it's minimal harm, minimal space will be taken up, and really the effects of oil and gas extraction is very minimal in comparison to the use of coal and other fossil fuels, which is true to some extent. I have to recognize that natural gas definitely has advantages as compared to some of the other fossil fuels, but it is absolutely critical that we pull the brake on the extraction of these materials, because we must reflect on the fact that not only are they incredibly harmful to our planet through the emissions that they produce, they also completely impact the health of the communities surrounding the extraction projects on so many levels. There are carcinogenic toxins that are released into the air as a result of fracking. And also it's important to think about the fact that the fossil fuels are non-renewable, which means that at some point we are going to run out of them and we are not going to be able to rely on them anymore. So whether we like it or not, we're going to have to transition to renewables. And I think it's critical that we do this immediately and try to conserve our the fossil fuels and the non-renewables that still exist for emergency situations when we really do need them, because there are some infrastructures in place where we cannot use renewable energy as much as we would like. And so I think that it is critical that we transition as much as we can our reliance on energy to renewables, and then really preserve those non-renewables for when we need them.
Thank you so much, Maya. I would just love to hear you guys, like, what are some of the changes that you want to see as we slowly as we transition off of fossil fuels? Because I think we can all recognize that there are certain sets and systems that need to use this, but not to the extent that we have. And we have, as we saw this past week, there was the price of oil went negative, and that's because we have so much set up into reserves that, like, we don't need to extract anymore. So what are some of the ways that you would want this renewable future to look like? Allie, do you want to have a go at it?
Yeah, definitely. I really hope that we can take advantage of the power that we have, that our voices have, and slowly start to bring that onto a local level. And I think one of the ways that we can do that is by continuing the ban on fracking just in Longmont. It was, the ban started in 2012, I believe, and the Colorado Supreme Court actually overturned it because they said it was illegal. But with Senate Bill 181, local governments and residents are getting more power in protecting our public health and protecting our land. So I'm hoping that we can get more power in our local governments to make these choices for ourselves, because they really do impact our lives. We shouldn't have, the big governments and big companies making these decisions for us. So I really hope that in the future we can have our voices heard and achieve renewable energy on a local level. And I hope that that can inspire other communities around us to follow suit, because I think that Colorado is full of people who care about the environment so much because we have grown up so connected to nature. And so I think that it's a great possibility that we can be one of the first areas to really, even though fracking and natural oil extraction is so common in this part of the country, I think that we can be one of the first areas to say we want it gone. And I really hope in the future that other communities can follow that as well.
Amazing. Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Allie. I love that. I think I would love to see clean energy treated as a human right by the leaders making decisions and the leaders in power, because we have a human right to be breathing clean air. And with fracking, a lot of that also comes with like income inequality, in the places where there are sections where the income is typically lower, there are going to be more fracking sites, and then those communities are breathing dirtier air, and that's just not okay. So that's what I hope to see.
Beautiful, beautiful. Maya, how about you finish us off?
I just wanted to add back on to what Allie was saying real quick about appealing to the people in power in our own communities, because I think that, like Allie was saying, we really do have the potential to be one of the leaders in the transition to completely renewable energy. And I have had experience along with my members from my environmental club in going to the Boulder County Commissioner hearings, which I absolutely recommend as a fairly easy way to really make your voice heard and make an impact on this issue in particular. But I think that one thing that has been super frustrating from the perspective of somebody who has been demanding a ban on fracking in Boulder County is that although the Boulder County commissioners are on our side and they do support a ban on fracking and they do want to halt the extraction of oil and gas in our community because they know the science behind it is detrimental to human health and to our environment, although they know all those things, they feel stuck because of the system in place that really places a lot of limits on what they can do. And they're afraid that if they were to declare a ban on fracking, they would be overturned. Like Allie was saying, in the Longmont case, the Supreme Court ruled against it. And that is just unfathomable to me, because like Megan was saying, I think it is completely a human right to have access to clean air and to clean energy. And so I would really like to see going forward the system changing to be able to make these changes possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just to, kind of synthesize some of the stuff I heard, personally, from my point of view too, I got involved when the Martinez versus COGCC court case was going, and it was one of the first actions that I was showing up for, rallying for. I'm also very close and personal friends with some of the plaintiffs on there. And I remember just the frustration and anger that I've felt and have felt over the past few years at how the oil and gas industry will really frame these issues as if, this is our jobs that you're trying to take away. You don't care about us. You don't care about our families. And as you said, Megan, we cannot talk about climate justice without talking about social justice. And I know personally, I have a friend in LA who she's from a Latinx family. She lives in a lower income community. She's been fighting fracking, urban fracking and drilling in her community since she was young. She was just diagnosed with cancer this past year. So it hurts my heart to think about that these issues are literally impacting people and people's health who can't even afford the health care that they need to really stay healthy and clean, healthy and safe. And so, I think that we can hope to continue as youth to amplify that message, especially if we have, more privileges than those who are also just adversely impacted by these issues of oil and gas drilling. And so I just wanted to applaud and thank all of you guys for what you're doing and bringing this to the forefront of everybody's minds. It's just so important. Well, thank you so much. I saw a question and also wanted to ask this about, how do you feel about your future at the moment? Like, what are some of the emotions that come up? But also what inspires you, and how do you deal with some of the adults that sometimes don't either believe in climate change or don't care about your voices, and how do you kind of like get over that? You know what I mean? So what's some of your hope, and what are you hoping to say to the adults out there who may not believe always in your point? Megan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I gotta say my first feeling is usually anger. It's really hard to read the news. It's really hard. A lot of this is really hard, and my first emotion is always anger, just that, that honestly that this is happening. And I mean, it's obviously caused from many years and whatnot, but yeah, so I just get angry thinking about, like, I really am so excited for what future has in store. There's so many places to explore. Life has so much to offer, all that jazz. But so then to think that that's in jeopardy is really upsetting. So I think, well, first of all, what inspires me is the people, first of all, the adults who have been environmentalists since they were young too, and hearing their stories is really impactful, and realizing that we're continuing this movement. And then people like Marlow. Obviously, Marlow has had a huge impact on me and inspiring me and helping me recognize the voice that I have. And I think, when it comes to talking to climate deniers and those adults that don't want to listen to you, like, recognizing and empowering your voice is really, really important. And I mean, when it comes to those adults that are just going to deny, I almost don't even want to spend any time on that. Like, why bother? It's my future, and I want to work with the people. I work with people that are going to maybe just give you a minute of their time. It's better than someone who's just going to argue with you. It's not worth it, because there are people who will work with you and will help you make a difference, and that matters.
Beautifully said. Yeah, I think it's really important that I think a lot of different emotions that can come up is fear and anger. And what I've seen with a lot of youth leaders is that they use that anger to plant inspiration that turns into hope. And then they turn that hope and give it to people around them. And it's really just contagious at that point, because that's the future that we believe in. It's not a place of fear and oppression and anger, but it's going to come into a place of positivity, hope, and collaboration. And so just really well said that at the end of the day, like, despite the climate deniers, despite those people who just negatively want to shut you down or say, my opinion's better than yours, or I don't care because you're trying to push your opinion on me, I think it's really, really fabulous that you guys are saying, we are just wanting to have a conversation, and that you can really you can even talk to some people who can be kind of climate deniers or on the edge just by just having a personal discussion and sharing, like some stuff about personally, how does it impact them? If they're farmers, what have you seen in the past few years on your agricultural business? If you come from a scientist, just saying, what is some of the science that you've been seeing in the community? What are the scientists who are saying that climate change isn't real? Are they, retired? Are they within the oil and gas industry? Like, really looking at sources as well. And so thank you so much, Megan, for saying that. I am wondering if, Maya, if you could answer that next.
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to go off of what you both were just saying about speaking to, those who might not believe in climate change or just see you as a vulnerable person because you're a youth and decide that they're going to shut down the listening and really just not open their mind up to what you have to say. And yes, obviously this is incredibly frustrating, and I feel my blood boil anytime I ever run into the situation, even if they're not adults and if they're just fellow students who don't quite believe in what you're trying to fight for. It is aggravating on so many levels, but at the same time, I would like to look at this as an opportunity to really practice advocating for the planet and practice advocating for your own beliefs and practice standing up for what you believe in and for our planet. And I really honestly feel empowered when I feel like I am correct in a conversation. And obviously when speaking to climate deniers, I'm like, I'm right in this situation. There's no doubt about it. And I'm sorry, but that's the truth. But you can't quite approach it like that because that's just going to shut them down even more. That's going to put them on the defensive. So it's really been a journey for me to kind of, I've had conversations that have been successful and that have been not so successful. For example, at the beginning of this year, the environmental club went down to Denver, and we were published in the little Niwot news called the Left Hand Courier. And in response, that one of the community members, he responded to in a letter to the editor. He said, I can't believe that Niwot High School is encouraging this and allowing people to ditch for climate change. Like, he tried to cite this big research project about how climate change is not real. And then other people from the community actually decided to step up, including Marlow, to stand up for the youth and for what we were doing. And also they looked into that research project that he had cited, and it actually was not at all the climate denying research project that he had claimed that it was. So it is important to check those sources and to have those facts available to yourself to really be able to approach those conversations in a way that is successful.
So beautiful. And yes, I remember that there's a lot of annoyance that can come up, and at the same time, I just love that every single time you're like, we can't use that fear and annoyance to also go and talk to people, but we have to share it in a positive and really welcoming space of collaboration. Ash, go ahead.
I totally agree with what Megan, Maya, and Marlo have said, and I feel like I don't know, personally, I feel a lot of fear just coming from, like everything that I've seen and like all the documentaries that kind of instill that fear in you to kind of like jolt you to take action. But something that gives me hope is, again, personally, I find it super hopeful, like encouraging when something as simple as swapping out your meat for a meat alternative, or shopping secondhand instead of buying from fast fashion, and just making it as easy as possible and providing links and resources for people who do and are willing to change, and making it as easy as possible to maybe transition to a plant-based diet or participate in a composting program, which I'm pretty sure Longmont has one, and I don't know if Niwot has one, but just making it as easy as possible to make change. And at least for me, the hardest thing with that is the government sometimes doesn't acknowledge that. And so making policy change can be a little frustrating, especially when the government subsidizes like factory farms and meat and animal products and the oil and gas industry. But things like the Green New Deal and politicians who are on our side have given me a lot of hope, and seeing them speak as passionately for it as we do gives me a lot of hope, and makes this, because this year I'll be voting for the first time. And so I'm excited to vote for the people who I believe will represent me, and I feel like that is something to look forward to instead of dreading the future and dreading our future climate.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Allie, finish us off with that question.
Yeah, so for me, dealing with adults who don't share the same views as me, it's almost hurtful, because to me, it feels like they don't see an issue with what they've taken away from me and what they've taken away from my children or in my grandchildren. But at the same time, it's almost laughable, because at this point in the crisis, you are just so closed-minded to deny what is happening. It's almost like what other people have said, why should I waste my time talking to you when the evidence is so obvious and you're just ignoring it? But for me, it's almost more painful to see people my own age who know about this cause and who know what's going on, but just lack the energy and the care to do something about it. There's so many people at my high school that know about the Environment Club, maybe have gone once or twice, but really never found the passion to actually work for it. And I see that with people all the time in my age and in other age groups, of course. But I still have so much hope for my future, because I know the immense power that these amazing youth leaders can have on people, because they've had it on me. And I believe that if we, the people that are passionate right now, work as hard as we can, others will follow. So that is my hope for the future.
God, amazing. You guys inspire me, and, continue the good work. I think we have time for about 2 more questions. And I really wanted to ask, how can people amplify your messages? And what do you hope to share with, the people in power and adults who can really support your work? Ash, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Yeah. So I think the best way to kind of get that energy that Allie was mentioning before, especially in adults who may not see it as impacting them individually, I think the best way, and this is just something I preach, is just showing how easy it is to let's just get involved. And like Allie said, just email the first email you see on a website, or going to a vegan restaurant instead of finding alternatives, and just making that first step. And I was going to mention this earlier, but this is kind of off topic, but I heard about these free online courses from Harvard, and one of them is about climate change, and I sent Marlow the link, and it's this 5-week course, and just especially in this time, just resources like that are available everywhere, and this literal free online course from Harvard is top-notch education to get yourself involved and find out the facts and find out that this is really happening, and just get involved. And it really is a fun thing once you find your passion. And even if you're not into activism, just I have so many friends who are in our club who make upcycled cards to sell during Valentine's Day. We made upcycled stuffed animals to sell, and making art out of trash, it's just, there's so many possibilities, and you can take your already existing passion and apply it to something that unifies us all.
So fabulous. Yeah, it's so true what we can do. And that, again, everything that you want to do, whether it's poetry or art or going and lobbying your legislators, we need everyone here in this movement. And I think just people wanting to get involved, or even people on the sidelines, as you were talking about, Allie, if you can go and support, you can go follow on social media, if you can amplify messages, if you can show up for events, that's how you can start. And that's really, really helpful. So just continuing to push people to support. Yeah. All right, Megan, can you give your answer or take on this question.
Yes, my take. Well, when it comes to, well, first of all, I love what Ash said. Yeah, it's really easy to get involved, but also I think when it comes to amplifying youth voices or voices that have to work harder to get their voices heard, I think the first most important thing you can do is listen, like listen to those voices and then amplify that voice, because the stories are what are really going to move people. Like if climate change isn't directly affecting you, then you're going to hear this story about how it's drastically changed someone's life, and that's going to affect you. We're humans, we have empathy somewhere in there. And so yeah, just listening to people's stories, spreading those stories everywhere you go. Everyone has connections, so then if you're listening to those stories and then you have these connections and you're spreading that story, it's gonna trickle down. So that's
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so amazing. Continuing to support and sharing your personal experience is going to reach hearts much faster than facts do. I think facts are great to, really concretely share your personal experiences. But at the end of the day, when somebody hears how they're impacted, it's just so amazing. So the final question I want to ask you guys before I have to head off, I just want to ask, what is your vision for the future? Where do you see yourself in the hopeful future? And what's your role within environmental activism? Is it a career or is it just a passion? What kind of is motivating you for the future? Allie, go ahead.
Well, for me in the future, I hope to see myself still an activist, still someone who is avid and telling my stories and sharing what I think, because I think as long as I can do that, I am doing something. And I really hope for the future to be a people that recognizes the threats on the environment as threats to each one of us, to our neighbors, our children, our backyards, our homes. I really, as I said before, I wish people not to divide this issue into age or political belief, but to unite it and work under it for our common good. So myself, I hope that I can continue this activism and get more involved with local and state government, talking to my legislators. I'm very interested in political science right now, so hopefully I want to be someone that can write those legislations and get them passed. I want to be someone who is right in the middle of it and working for the people in my community. I want to be that voice for other people. And I also would love to help other students, other elementary students or middle schoolers, high schoolers, create their own crews and clubs, because it's really inspiring to see people take an idea and run with it. And kind of what Megan was saying about how we all have these connections. There's such a great opportunity to connect all these different people that are passionate about the same thing. When I got involved with Silver Creek's Environment Club, I pretty quickly got involved with Earth Guardians from that. And then I separately got involved with SRL, but SRL and Earth Guardians now have a connection. And all of the different environment groups in Longmont, we all met last month, so now we all have a connection together. And I just hope that we can keep building this strong community and raise our voices so that we can all work together.
Amazing. Go ahead, Ash.
Going back to 8th grade, when I first heard about climate change and global warming, the one thing that held me back is I can't do anything about this, but I found a way to integrate my love for science and engineering and stuff and combine that with my massive passion for environmental activism, because doing things and developing things for the environment and that will help climate change and stuff like that is one of the few things that makes time fly, and I think having that as a career would be amazing. So something with environmental engineering or chemistry or something, and working with that and creating those new technologies that will help us move forward and make it easier and easier for us to be more sustainable. And more in the near future, I'm really hoping to work with the Factory Farming Awareness Coalition and working as an intern there, because I am really passionate about raising awareness about factory farming and the huge impact that what we consume like as food has on the environment. And so working with that, I am really excited to raise awareness about that because it's something we can do every day.
Beautiful. Okay, for the next few minutes, Megan, what are your thoughts for the future? And then Maya, I'll get to you next.
I'm not gonna lie, when I think about the future, I am very unsure about what that entails for myself. But all I know is that working with people who are passionate is what makes me feel alive. And I think spreading that passion is what I would love to do. And for the world, in like what I see a future where the earth is respected and loved by everyone who walks its soil. Ideally, that is what the future entails for all of us.
Beautiful. Maya?
I honestly, so I feel like junior year is this point in your life when you're all of a sudden asked almost every other day, what are you doing after high school? What are your plans? Where are you going to university? What do you want to be? And it can be really overwhelming to have to think about all those things. But as I mentioned earlier, I think that this time here, just being able to be at home, and I'm fortunate to live in the mountains, so I'm able to take advantage of the outdoors in this time. I've been really able to reground myself and realize that what I want to do going forward absolutely has to do with the environment. And I'm not sure which field, whether it's going to be political science, like Allie, or more so the scientific approach like Ash, or whether it's, just community organizing. But I do know that I want to be surrounded by people who are really grounded in what they believe, and to have similar beliefs to those people, and yet at the same time to be able to engage with people with completely different backgrounds from my own, because I feel oftentimes very sheltered here in Boulder County, and I really hope that the so many people from different backgrounds in so many different ways, and I'm really looking forward in the future to opening my eyes to is affected in different ways by this global, I would say crisis, but at the same time it's an experience that we're all going through in a way, and I think that it has the power of exploring that more.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I have one last minute, and I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for what you are saying, and I so agree. It's so okay not to know where you're going. It's so okay to feel uncertainty, and that your true raw emotions really are what inspire others, especially within your authenticity and your spirit for creating a better world. So thank you guys so much for inspiring me. You're going to carry me on for the rest of the day. And I hope to continue to work with you all and to create the world that we know is possible. I'm going to hand it off to Abby now. Thank you guys so, so much.
Thanks so much, Marlow. I agree with you completely. I could not be more inspired in this moment. I just love hearing from all of you, and I just want to thank all of you for being part of this. We are as local an organization as you can get. Sustainable Resilient Longmont. I'm Abby, the chair of the board. We're primarily an all-volunteer organization here in Longmont, Colorado, focused on local sustainability. And I just wanted to thank all of you for, making Longmont Earth Day something that is really about our future and your future, And so thank you to all our panelists and to Marlow, who I think had to step off. But I just wanted to close to make sure that everyone knows about some things SRL is working on real quick. And just to let you all know, like I mentioned, we have a board of directors. We have 3 committees that work in the areas of sustainability. We organize the Longmont Earth Day celebration. So we have an Earth Day committee. Then we have a zero waste committee that works on zero waste issues, education, and advocacy around that, and also a renewable energy committee. And so for the folks that are with us on the as participants right now, you know, for you all to get involved, I invite you to join us. Most of those committees meet about once a month. We also have a really exciting thing happening right now that a couple of people mentioned during the panel discussion of the Eco Challenge. And so to find out more about that, you can go to our website and our Earth Day page. We're also going to be having a link of this webinar because we weren't able to get it to broadcast live on Facebook. So sorry about the technical difficulties about that, but we will be posting it to our Facebook page and to our YouTube. I just got to go back real quick. The Eco Challenge is really cool because in addition to signing up for the challenges that are on there and really being part of this global community, that goes till the end of the month. You can also make your own challenge of something that you decide to do. And so it's very creative and individualistic. So I really do believe that by everyone doing their part, we can make a difference. And that's what our organization is about. I also want to give a shout out to our program coordinator, Rachel Zelaya, who I know is out there somewhere listening to us. You know, Rachel has been on our team as our first staff member since last summer and has done a ton of work getting this webinar and this event together today and just organizing us. And so thank you, Rachel, so much. Thank you also to the members of the Earth Day Planning Committee, all of our volunteers. We have some awesome volunteers and board members. And again, just thank you to all the panelists. I hope that for those of you who are listening, you will find a way to take what these youth are saying and the message they're conveying about community involvement and go out there and make a difference in our community. And so with that, just any like closing final thoughts from anyone, any of the panelists before we go, or?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for everyone who's watching. I've been reading all of your comments in the chat and they are making me so happy. It makes me feel so supported to see all of your really sweet comments and that everyone wants to work with us. I mean, I would love that. I'd love to make new connections with all the people that are listening, and it really inspires me and that you took the time to listen to this. So I really appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much. The recognition that you guys value our voices means so much. Thank you to SRL for allowing us to share our voice on this platform. Yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing Earth Day.
Again, just thank you so much. I haven't worked with SRL or Earth Guardians for too long yet, but I'm excited for my future with you guys, and I'm so excited for all of the schools to get together again. And if SRL and Earth Guardians and anyone else watching wants to attend a huge meeting with all of our clubs, that would be amazing. So maybe once all of this is over, that would be great to organize, and going back to like collaborating and stuff and unification, that would be amazing. I'm really excited for our future and the rest of Earth Week.
Yeah, just going off what everybody else said, I would like to say thank you to everybody. This is a super cool opportunity and I'm really glad to have been a part of it.
Awesome, yeah. This is so great and so much positive energy. And thank you all to the participants too today for joining us. It's great to see so much engagement. And for those of you who weren't able to join us live, we will be rebroadcasting this on our social media sites. So go to srlongmont.org, that's our website. You can sign up for our email there as well. And that's a great way to stay informed about things happening locally. We share, you know, our events as well as other community events that are going on. And what's happening with the city, sustainability plan. And so it's a really great resource for information. So I encourage all of you for that. And just really thanks again, everybody, for being part of this. And I'm so excited. Happy Earth Day. And we have this screen share here so you can see our slide. But yeah, happy Earth Day. Thanks for attending. And we will we'll be in touch soon.